The original Green Lantern was a man named Alan Scott. His powers came from a mystical green meteor that fell to the Earth. This meteor later became known as the Starheart. When the meteor fell to Earth, it proceeded with 3 events. First, to bring death, second, to bring life, and third, to bring great power. When it landed in ancient China, a man named Chang carved it into a lamp. Men around Chang feared him and his mysterious lamp, so they murdered him. The lamp then exploded with green flames, killing the men who killed Chang. Years later, the lamp made its way to America, where it was given to an insane man who created railroad lanterns. After he carved the lamp into a lantern, a burst of flames gave him back his sanity and a new life. The lantern eventually showed up aboard a train with young railroad engineer Alan Scott. The train Scott was traveling on crashed after hitting explosives on a bridge, and he was the only survivor. The lantern then spoke to him, instructing him to take a small piece to carve into a ring and to carry it with him. Alan Scott then became the first Green Lantern, and he used his powers to battle the forces of evil. Scott mainly dealt with mob-like criminals, and while he wasn't fighting crime, he worked in a television studio. He had a good run, but during the decline of superhero comics after World War II, the Green Lantern series was eventually canceled.
Hal Jordan.
In the late 1950s, DC Comics had helped to bring back superheroes and their concepts. By 1959, the new Green Lantern made his first appearance in Showcase number 22. His name was Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan.
Jordan was a test pilot for Ferris Aircraft, and one day while in a flightless simulator, a green glow surrounded him. It transported him to the crash-landed alien ship of Abin Sur. Once there, the dying alien entrusted his ring to Jordan. The new Green Lantern didn't get his powers from a mystical rock. Instead, the Lanterns drew their power from a central power battery on the planet Oa, inhabited by the Guardians. The Guardians are the oldest beings in existence and have divided the universe into 3,600 sectors, for which each Lantern is to patrol. Hal is subjected to Sector 2814 and was trained by alien Green Lanterns including Kilowog and Sinestro himself. This was of course before Sinestro went rogue.
My power ring will find an honest and fearless one to take my place.
Back when Abin Sur's ring was searching for a replacement Green Lantern, it found 2 potential suitors, Hal Jordan and a man named Guy Gardner. Jordan, being closer to Abin Sur's ship, was chosen, but Gardner wasn't forgotten. He was placed as a backup should anything ever happen to Jordan. But Gardner gets seriously injured at one point due to an earthquake, and the Guardians chose John Stewart as Jordan's new backup. However, Gardner surprisingly recovers from his injuries and was a backup once again. This wasn't for long because during a period when he was performing his duties as a backup lantern for Jordan, the power battery he was using exploded and entrapped him into the Phantom Zone. Many thought him to be dead, but Gardner eventually returned. He even acquired a yellow power ring for a short while, which was quickly destroyed. At that time, Gardner had his own series, and he was known as the Warrior after a few issues. This was because of the new powers he received after drinking from a special chalice within a cave. He discovers his past is not what he thought it was. He is actually a descendant of a space-traveling race called the Voldarians. This discovery leads him to find powers within himself, including changing his body into any weapon of his choosing.
John Stewart, the Green Lantern.
John Stewart is a very popular Green Lantern, and I think it's because of his exposure in the Justice League cartoon.
It was never yours. It was always the Guardians.
In the Green Lantern series, Stewart occasionally filled in for Hal when he was unavailable, but was given full-time duty when Hal relinquished his status completely in the 1980s. However, Hal Jordan came back to being a Green Lantern with Stewart, but for a brief period, Stewart was the star of the Green Lantern series. He grew into a very strong and complex hero as time went on. Stewart eventually became the caretaker of the Mosaic world, which can be explained as multiple communities from different planets brought to Oa by an insane guardian. Stewart first reacted bitterly towards his new assignment, but as time went on, he became very suitable for the job. This was because of his high intellect and unconventional thinking, coming from his past of being an architect and former U.S. Marine. In time, Stewart forged the Mosaic world into a new society and became the first mortal guardian of the universe, known as the Master Builder. This newfound power was robbed from him when the tragic event of Emerald Twilight occurred. Emerald Twilight marks the time when the central power battery was destroyed and when Hal Jordan's hometown was annihilated by Cyborg Superman and Mongol. Jordan seemingly went insane after the incident and traveled to Oa to retrieve power from the central power battery in hopes to recreate Coast City. This act being for personal gain was not allowed by the Guardians, but Jordan was too determined to let anybody stop him. He demolished and killed anyone who stood in his way, including Kilowog and even Sinestro, who had been let out of his prison within the power battery to stop Jordan. Sinestro was defeated and Hal absorbed and destroyed the central power battery on Oa. He then called himself Parallax. Hal Jordan as Parallax posed some of the biggest threats the DC Universe had ever seen. It was not until the living nebula called the Sun Eater consumed the sun in what is known as the Final Night that Hal returned to his heroic roots. On the brink of Earth's demise, he used his powers as Parallax to sacrifice himself and reignite the sun. After this, his soul was transferred into the Spectre, the spirit of redemption. At the time when Jordan became Parallax, there was one Guardian left alive. His name was Ganthet. On Oa, Ganthet picked up the crumbled remains of a Green Lantern ring and fused a new one. The new ring was given to struggling artist Kyle Rayner, who was in an alley when Ganthet appeared right in front of him. Ganthet simply gave Kyle the ring and left.
Beware my power.
Over time, Rayner became much greater at his duty as the Green Lantern.
Kyle Rayner.
He joined various hero groups, including the Justice League, and also formed a friendship with Alan Scott. Rayner faced many powerful enemies, but his most deadliest of adversaries was Oblivion. Oblivion is a cosmic entity and the embodiment of Rayner's fear that was unknowingly created by him when he first received the ring. During the attacks by Oblivion, Rayner learned how to unlock more power from his ring that he had never used before. He was then able to face Oblivion and defeat him. Kyle Rayner eventually became known as Ion. His powers as a Green Lantern began to grow so superior that he realized he was tapping into the Green Lantern energy left in the sun when Hal Jordan died. After a battle with the villain Nero over the control of these powers, Rayner absorbed them and took the name Ion. As Ion, Rayner used some of his power to give back Jade, Alan Scott's daughter, her emerald abilities she had once lost. When Rayner realizes his newfound powers were actually the life force energies of the deceased Guardians of the Universe, he returned them to Oa. He relit the central power battery and brought life to the new generation of Guardians to be watched over by Ganthet. Now as a Green Lantern once again, Rayner went on to deal with situations in space and let John Stewart succeed him as the Green Lantern of the Justice League. In space, one of Rayner's missions given to him by Ganthet was to retrieve Hal Jordan's body from inside the sun. Doing this would later lead to the splitting apart of Jordan's soul from the Spectre. However, it is learned that Parallax is actually an ancient parasitic entity that feeds on fear in the universe. Parallax grafted itself to Hal's soul when he destroyed the central power battery, freeing it from its prison. Years later, Jordan's soul, Parallax, and the Spectre split, revealing Parallax's true appearance. Separated from Jordan's soul, the Spectre disappeared into the sky. Jordan's pure soul was guided back to his body by Ganthet, and Hal Jordan was reborn. But the fate of the Green Lantern Corps has yet to be discovered. The future now includes 3 more sagas, Rebirth only being the first, with so much more to come.